one track that was on my full-length album. It started because I thought, cool, what if I just do a bunch of different patterns with probably my favorite sound, which is percussive sine tone and white noise. And then from there, I think that informs going to something like the Juno and putting down a chord progression as soon as I'm feeling it.
Thank you all for being here. It's incredible to see such a diverse group of multi-genre creators in one room at a time. I'm Sharooz Raoofi. I started Sample Magic, sound design company, about 13 years ago. I run a company called Audiaire, and I started a magazine called Attack Magazine. Do a bunch of other stuff, like I own a music publishing company, Dynamic, and I've DJed and produced for many years. This is Jeremy, Chrome Sparks. Tell us a bit about yourself. How did you get started, and what was your journey to getting on Ninja Tune?
Yeah. Well, hi. Thanks for having me. This is really cool. Hi, everybody. Yeah. Cheers. I started making music originally because I would just, when I was like a toddler, I'd kind of smash everything at dinner, and I'm sure like everybody in here was doing the same thing and like pissing off their families and just like making a lot of noise. So thankfully they got me a little drum set, and I just started playing drums and then taking lessons, and that eventually turned into going to this arts camp and getting really deep into classical percussion, and then wanting to play guitar and write songs, and like hearing Daft Punk and Justice, and getting into electronic music in high school. And then, yeah, I studied classical percussion for a bit in college, but that kind of got eclipsed by the music I was writing and the Chrome Sparks stuff, as I was able to get that music out and get enough traction to make it seem like I could do that for the main thing in my life. So I moved to New York and just like doubled down on working on my own music and doing some tours and going to South by and all of that. And yeah, I was putting out music with Future Classic, and then Ninja Tune approached me through their subsidiary Counter. And it really all just happened through this one wonderful person working there, Vidi, who has really like scouted a lot of artists for them. And she approached us and me and my manager, and we really liked what she was saying, and obviously love Ninja Tune and everything they touch. So I ended up with them, and I did my first full length with them last year, and then on January 1st just put out my last EP with them.
Fantastic. It's been an 8-year relationship. That's pretty phenomenal as far as record label artist relationships go, to see that you're still at the forefront of what you're doing and so heavily supported, if you like, by your label is really a testament to the strength of that relationship. I want to just go back to your debut release, My Heart, 2011. I read that you went off to a cabin in upstate New York and just kind of locked yourself away for a number of months and sensory deprivation. I mean, tell us a little bit about that. It sounds like everybody's dream, or maybe some people's nightmare, but I'm sure there's a part in all of us that would love to have the freedom to be able to go and do that.
Yeah, well, this was for the full length that I released last year. In 2016, I had heard from friends that going somewhere and kind of escaping all the distractions of your everyday life, obviously, you're able to focus better. So I found a cabin on Airbnb that wasn't too crazy and was in the woods in upstate New York. And just with a buddy, went up there with a van and brought far more gear than I really needed and ended up using.
That's always good.
And just, yeah, like living in New York is amazing for connecting with people and working on stuff. But if I'm really thinking about working on a big project that's going to take a while, kind of escaping the everyday stresses from little things to just like, what am I going to do tonight with my friends? Am I going to see someone? Are we going to go to this show or this bar or go to this person's house for dinner? That shit can get in the way of a lot. So to be able to sit down on April 1st and be like, cool, I have nothing to do until like May. It was great. And just like opened up this headspace where I was able to just focus a lot better. And then also just being in nature, and that inspires me a lot. So being in the
Sure.
city can get me down, as far as it just being concrete everywhere. And so yeah, being around trees, being around wildlife, having some free time, it allowed me to really just kind of relax and focus in a way that I didn't experience in New York. So yeah, I was in this cabin for a month, and did a lot of work for my first full length there. And it wasn't like it opened up anything magical that wasn't already there. Just able to focus a lot better, and for me that was helpful because everyone I'm sure just gets like super distracted all the time from little things. If you're not good about like putting your phone on airplane mode or you know, meditating or whatever, it really helped me.
Did you have a sounding board? I mean, did you have anybody there that would tell you enough's enough? I mean, when it was just you, or did you invite the label along at some point to listen to what you were doing? I mean, when did you know you were finished?
So it wasn't like full isolation. Like
Right.
a friend came and visited for like 2 days. There were 2 people living in a main house down through the woods. It was their property.
Sure.
And I'd eat with them Mondays and Tuesdays.
Okay.
But yeah, it was a lot of isolation.
That's
No
awesome.
cell service, internet only when I went to their place.
Yeah.
So really, it was just like a retreat where I was stripped of all the things that I, you know, keep you connected, but also take away from a lot of the creative space.
Sure.
It's fun. I just wanted to try it. I'm not even sure I'll do it again.
Yeah.
You know, I might just try to be more disciplined about working on stuff at home.
Sure.
And putting my phone away.
Yeah.
Really, like, it's all just about not looking at my phone.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's a struggle that everyone in this room can relate to, I'm sure. So tell us a bit about your process, because I've seen videos of you, and you've got this amazing ability to take equipment that is vintage and analog and use it to the complete limit of what it's intended to do. It's quite remarkable to watch. And I think the thing I really enjoy about what you do is to my ears, it's almost genreless. I can't really I can't put it in a box, which is, I think, what every artist aspires to do, really, without thinking about it. Tell me about what you're using and how you're using it to achieve your sound.
Well, yeah, the main synths that I end up using for most everything are an old Moog Model D, Oberheim OBXA, Juno 60 modular, and then just a lot of classic drum machine sounds.
Yeah.
And then I record percussion a lot, just be it shakers, tambourines, anything like that. So yeah, I like getting to know the ins and outs of this stuff. And for one EP I did, Parallelism, all of the sounds aside from like a vocal sample and a tambourine were 3 synths, all the drum sounds and everything. Because I think it gives it a glue and a vibe, and it's just fun to limit yourself like that. So like the Moog Model D, you can go in and just like shorten the envelope a lot and feed it back into itself through the external input, and that gives it this like doosh kind of percussive sound and this deepness.
Right.
That I just love those sounds, I think, is the moral of the story.
And how are you processing stuff in a digital domain? What are you doing in your DAW? Like, what does that look like?
So yeah, I use a lot of the UAD plugins. A lot of the stuff that really is just shit that I would love to be using outside the box but can't afford. You know, all the 1176s, all the Harrison EQs, stuff like that, Pultec EQs.
Sure.
And I'd love to get that stuff, but
Yeah, but
soon
it's
enough.
the UAD stuff sounds almost as good.
So yeah, a lot of that. I try to keep it minimal though, and like let these instruments speak. I don't know. I haven't found myself getting super deep into like crazy, like reverbs and shit that really like breaks the sound apart and like turns it into sound design. I really prefer to just get the synths there and get stuff from outside.
Sure.
In the way I want it. A lot of Space Echo. I use my Roland Space Echo on a lot of stuff. I love that thing so much. Yeah.
And what about your mix bus? Are you doing much there? Because you've got this sound that's so crispy and sort of analog sounding the whole way through. It really just sounds like it was put onto a Studer and mastered in the analog domain, and of the era, of a vintage era.
I love the UAD Studer plugin.
Oh, great! Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I have a 388, this tape machine that's 8-track reel-to-reel. It's not too crazy. It's not super hi-fi or anything. And I've been having a lot of fun with that. Some of the stuff on my album, the debut album, I ran through that. But really, like the ATR 102 is probably my favorite UAD
Sure.
plugin, this tape plugin that's phenomenal. So I throw it through that, but yeah, really not too much. I really think it's the
Less is
stuff
more.
going in.
Sure. So you've made a pack for Splice. It's an amazing pack. If you guys haven't checked it out, it's probably my favorite thing on Splice right now. How did that come about? I mean, a lot of artists don't want to give their sounds away. You did it, and you did it incredibly well. I mean, how did it come about? And tell us a bit about it.
Well, first off, I'm really bad at having stuff ready to go when I want to sit down for a session. Like, it's been my New Year's resolution for like 5 years to get a Ableton template together for when I open it, but it's still the same with like the Ableton reverb is A and the delay is B. I love making stuff from scratch every time, and that's so fun for me. But the problem with that is like I don't do so many sessions with people I'm not like friends with or even that much production
Sure.
for other people in the first place, but I want to start doing more of that. And someone will come over and they'll be like, cool, like let's get a beat together. Like, do you have any beats or anything? I'll be like, yeah, let's go to the modular synth and like make a kick drum sound. And they're sitting there like, okay, cool. And I'm there like, yeah. So that's what's fun for me. But at a certain point, I think I'm shooting myself in the foot. So when I was asked to make a sample pack, I thought like, this is a really good opportunity for me to go through this whole process in an organized way.
Sure.
And try to make a lot of the sounds that I do like to use and would like to use for myself, but also share that because I'm not too precious about that. And if it's like these sounds that make me, like, that's not cool. I hope that's not the case. I hope there's other stuff going on. And if people can access everything on my laptop, like, hopefully there's still something special and it's not just the sounds. So I'm happy to share that. And I think it's like, all right, this James Blake album just came out. Everyone's listened to that. And I listened to that and part of me goes like, fuck, I'm quitting music. Like I'm done, which is what I thought when his first album came out. And I went in college to a Sufjan Stevens concert with a bandmate of mine I was playing in a band with. He was doing Age of Ads, and it was so good. It was mind-boggling. We're in the car back to campus, and my buddy goes like, that was so beautiful. And I was like, yeah, man, yeah. And he's like, yeah, I'm done with music. I'm not gonna be that good. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, no. He's elevating music as a whole. He's inspiring the shit out of us. And like, why are we here in the first place? Why are people sitting in this room? It's like because this music world is something that makes life worth living. And I think when people get too precious about themselves and their artist name and their sounds or anything like that, like, we've failed. It's all about the music world as a whole and sharing what makes us happy and why we're doing it in the first place, which like, if I can make some cool claps and some modular kicks and stuff like that and share that with people and they want to use that and that furthers what they're doing, like, great. That's awesome. I want to do that.
Yeah.
And now I also have these sounds and I'm going into my Splice pack. Like, when people now will come by and they're like, you have a beat? It's like, yeah, I've got these modular kicks that I don't need to sit and make from scratch.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was all about it. I was in my head about it at first, with just like what any producer who spends a lot of time making sounds would think. But then, yeah, going through that thought process, happy to share it, happy to create it.
Fantastic. Very refreshing attitude. It's great to see that. Can we go technical a little on the sample pack?
Just love that.
Fantastic. So, I mean, something that's really refreshing to hear. You know, you spoke about using modular gear to make original sounds. That's amazing, because right away those sounds are completely unique. They are not preset driven. They're not derivative of anybody else's material. Give me your workflow. I mean, how would you make a 2-bar loop on your sample pack? I mean, how would that come about? What kind of modules are you using? How are you using them? How much processing?
Yeah, so for example, the modular kicks. I'm using a lot of make noise modules. The DPO is my oscillator. I have the Harvestman filter that I love, and I'll make a lot of drum sounds just with that filter, turning the resonance all the way up with a really short envelope.
Sure.
Getting the boo and turning that really deep for kicks. And then, yeah, what else on that? Oh, yeah, there's a Erica synths. It's called like a fusion flanger delay overdrive kind of thing, where it's like a delay, but it'll go really tight so you can get it into these kind of chorusy flange sounds. And there's a tube in it. And you turn that up and you get some nice overdrive. So some like overdriven 808 sounding kicks are from that module with the DPO going through there, sine wave. And then, yeah, processing after the fact, I would do some EQing with FabFilter Pro Q2, maybe some of the Harrison 32C UAD EQ, which I love. Very different from the FabFilter, which is more surgical. And the Harrison is more like a vintage mixing board where all the EQs have a lot of character. So yeah, some of that, probably some 1176 or API 2500 compression, all UAD. Sometimes the Space Echo, so I have a lot of the Space Echo spring reverb, a lot of the Space Echo tape delay on there. And then, yeah, the UAD ATR 102, just to glue it.
It's a lot of
together with
processing.
some tape. I guess it is.
Yeah. But I mean, how far do you go with the processing? Like, are you normalizing stuff? Are you just kind of taking a laissez-faire approach with it, where you're leaving some room for the user? I mean, how are you limiting stuff, compressing stuff on the way out?
I had stuff barely touching a limiter at the end because I did want to leave all of that to all of the users. I was supposed to bounce everything at like -1, so I think I tried to do that.
Yeah.
Which I don't know, unless someone can tell me, I couldn't even figure out how to do that in Ableton. It's like not, you can normalize stuff, but not to anything. Can you take one switch? I think that's what I ended up doing, but but then still you need to just, if you normalize it in the export preferences and have it at -1, does it normalize it to the master volume?
Yeah, it's still come out as -1, I think.
It's brilliant.
Swap places. Okay, great. And I mean, how do you feel when you hear these sounds? I mean, how does that feel to you? Can you give us some notable examples of where you've heard them? And
It's
how you
funny.
felt?
It's mostly just been like Instagram stories.
Yeah.
I'd love for like a song to come on the radio and be like, oh shit, that's like C minor 9 Juno stat. The funniest thing was I played a show in Utrecht, and people will come up to me after shows and be like, oh man, I love this song. This like song got me through this, or like meant a lot. And was it someone came up to me and was like, dude, like spring hit #2. So
Fantastic.
sick. Yeah, I'm putting that on all my backbeats, like just behind the clap. It's like,
Brilliant.
yeah. So that's really funny. But seeing people making tracks who have tagged me on Instagram,
Yeah.
it's like all the sounds and the chords. It's so funny.
That's awesome.
And that's when it's like, oh shit, like this could be a Chrome Sparks track. But I'm into it. It's
Yeah. That's very generous. Are you a musician yourself? Do you play? I mean, are you a classically trained musician? Do you have any kind of musical background?
So I didn't get my degree, but I went to school for classical percussion.
How important is that to what you do? I mean, how much does it come into play?
I think it comes into play a lot, but I wouldn't say it's necessary for anyone to have. Like, if you want to be writing stuff where it's like crazy, intense classical composition sounding stuff, then sure, you need that. But
Right.
like, to write a good pop song or to make some like beats that any DJ could play and make a floor go insane, like you need none of that. So I think it's all what you make of it. Like definitely study the music you like is what I would say, and figure out why you like it and what makes it resonate with you, be it you know, a certain chord progression or a certain sound or a certain kind of feel or beat. But yeah, I've been working a lot on my piano playing, a lot for live. So I'm not playing a lot of wrong notes because I'm playing some synths live and I'm playing a lot of wrong notes, and I'm trying to cut down on that. But yeah, I studied classical percussion, and I think more than anything it was like the discipline of studying classical music and seeing a piece or seeing something performed and being like, I could never play that. That looks so difficult. And then shedding it and shedding it and shedding it and then playing it.
Right.
I think that more than any of the specific musical knowledge is what stuck with me the most, and I think is what's most valuable in any trade.
Yeah. That sounds like great advice. We're going to go and see you play live later at Terra Ground.
Yeah.
Part of the thing for tonight. Tell us a bit about a live show. What happens there? Get geeky with it.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on electronic musicians performing live. A lot of thoughts.
Don't hold back.
What the hell are you supposed to do for a live show if like you make your music sitting at a laptop? Like, and why would anyone expect you to do anything other than sitting at a laptop? Like, how contrived would it be to go up there with a band, essentially like a cover band playing your music? And that's what when I was in college, I put together a 5-piece band, and we played all these songs that I had made just like with plugins at a laptop, programming shit. And it sounded like shit. It was so bad. And it was because it was essentially a cover band of like rock instruments playing these electronic beats, because that was like the world I came from. So that's how I saw a performance. But it didn't work. It really didn't work. And I learned from that. And I also, coming from that world, would see electronic performers not playing instruments, and I was a purist about it at first. And so I'd see someone behind a laptop and be like, this isn't a performance, like I'm bored as shit. But kind of the more I started going to things and appreciating, like Fortet. Yeah, you guys saw that meme, like this is where this is where
Studio.
This is where I recorded and mixed my new album. And it's like a MIDI controller and a laptop and and like a little window. I'm sitting there like, oh my God, like how much money am I gonna put into my studio? And he's making these albums like this. And then he performs and he's using his laptop because what else is he supposed to do?
Yeah.
But it's amazing. And I'll go to a show and it's the best because you're hearing this music you love, and he puts care into the production of the show and is doing these shows with this lighting installation. If anyone hasn't seen it, check it out. It's mind-blowing, and it's a beautiful performance. And he's not up there playing guitar or like doing anything contrived. He's doing his process, and it works. And it's visceral, and it's all you could hope for and more. So I think with performance, it's a matter of figuring out, what am I good at? What's the most effective way for an audience, or for me to show my music to an audience? And for me right now, it's me playing some synths. It's having my friend play drums with Sunhouse triggers. He puts mesh heads on the drums so you can't hear them, and then has these advanced triggers where we can put all my samples into his laptop, and he controls them, and you can have it like the pitch goes down when he gets closer to the edge of the drum, or there's delay if he hits the rim, all this stuff that he's great with. His name's Max Jaffe, and he makes his own incredible music with these triggers. But this is how I feel it's best for me to do it now. I'm not sure it's always going to be the case. But yeah, I try to have as little backing track as possible, but there's definitely a lot of it in some songs. A lot of looping. I could not do my live show without Ableton. I think for producing, I wouldn't say Ableton is necessary to what I'm doing, but for the live show, 100%.
What does the Ableton arrangement look like in your live show?
It's ugly. I have I'm using a Prophet 08 Moog Voyager, MPD32 modular. And I have all of those like MIDI in and out, audio out, all of that going into Ableton. And then I'm sending them all preset changes. I'm sometimes sending them MIDI notes. Like the modular is getting MIDI parts so I can turn around and mess with it. Oh, that's my studio. Whoa.
You're in there somewhere too. Oh, no, you're not.
So yeah, the modular up here, I'll send it MIDI. This is cool. I'll send it MIDI and then I can just turn around and mess with the sound so people can see like I'm doing something. I'm reacting to the audience. They're reacting to what I'm doing. But the notes are getting sent from Ableton. I'm sending light programming from Ableton to these lights that I've gotten set up. The drummers, he's using the Sunhouse program for his triggers on his laptop, but his kick is going to me because like for some of the tracks, it's an 808 kick where the pitch goes through the chords. So that's all automated in a MIDI clip. So he can just play his own rhythms and play his parts. But whenever he hits the kick, the pitch of the 808 changes and goes along to the track.
Wow.
So I try to make it so that we can just play and have as much fun vibing off each other on stage as possible, but still having it within these parameters that we need it to have because it is an electronic performance with programmed lights and backing track and automated looping and all of that.
That's awesome. That's incredibly ambitious. And going back to your earlier point about Fortet, I mean, how do you feel, and this is kind of a controversial one, but there are a lot of artists out there that will just take a laptop on the road or just do DJ sets purely from a budget and logistics perspective. You have to bring musicians out with you. You have to pay for extra flights, all that kind of stuff. And how would you know, everybody in an ideal world would want to stay true to their performance philosophy, but also with the way live performances are now and the kind of budget restraints and having to have a sound guy and a tech and all that kind of stuff. I mean, is there a healthy balance between being able to make a living out of performing music, electronic music live, but also not skimping on putting together an interesting show?
Yeah, I mean, I'll make more like for some random DJ gig than for a 6-week live tour.
Wow.
Like, it is not. I wouldn't have fun coming out and doing it every night if I'm thinking about like saving money more than I'm thinking about putting on a good show.
Right.
Like, it's a privileged position to be in, and not everyone can say that. And they would go on tour and I need to make money, I need to pay rent, I need to do all these things. Thankfully, I will get this odd DJ gig, and then I can afford to go on tour and make it the way I want.
Gotcha.
Which is a luxury, for sure.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would be up there without my drummer and without these lights and without a lot of the stuff I've put into it. So it is wherever you draw the line. You know, I could go up there and lose a lot of money and put on a better show with a lot more shit going on, and I'd love to do that, but
do more DJ gigs.
Yeah, I do have to get more than DJ gigs. So I think it's what you make it, and it's what you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like where you want to draw the line between how much am I putting into this and how much am I coming out with at the end of this.
Yeah.
And I can say I never regret going in more on like putting more stuff into the live show to make it better, but I do sometimes regret not giving enough.
Right.
So trying to learn from that is a big one. I think, at the end of the day, like falling asleep at night, feeling fulfilled, it's about putting on the best performance I can and having the most fun. And again, going back to like why I'm here, why I'm doing this in the first place.
Right.
Is like because I love this. And
Great
I love
answer.
being able to do this and go on stage with another person who I can work with.
I don't think enough electronic musician artists are bringing the art of a jam session on stage with them right now. It's very possible to jam with musicians while playing electronic music with Ableton driving it all. And you do it incredibly well.
Cheers, thanks. I don't know, I sometimes feel like jam is like a dirty word, and it's not. Yeah, but jam,
Play with.
Create, yeah.
Let's go back a couple of questions. Sample packs. That's why we're all here.
Yeah.
Do you use any sample packs yourself? Be honest.
Yes. Yeah.
Care to disclose which ones?
Well, I have some of those kicks from your pack, those vintage house.
From Sample Magic.
Yeah.
They're great on it.
Those, but then really other than some odds and ends, I haven't downloaded a sample pack really since I think high school. When I downloaded, thankfully someone on some like message board posted a download link for, was it like The Machine? It's like all the vintage drum machines.
Yes.
And I pretty much just stick to that.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
What about soft synths? What are you using soft synth wise? Are you sort of
I just got Ableton Operator. It's tight.
nice?
I used to use the TAL plugins, those free ones,
Yeah,
those
they're
TAL
great,
Juno
yeah.
plugins and stuff. But then I've been like pretty off soft synths for a long time, and now I'm realizing that's limiting and stuck up.
Is that just a sound quality thing, or do you just prefer to have tangible
It
knobs?
was like more fun and more of a challenge.
Yeah.
But then it was one thing I was doing. I called Machine Drum because I was having trouble with this sub bass part. I had this bass part I had recorded on the Juno, and it wasn't quite punching, and I wanted to add a sub part below it. And he was like, "Dude, just Ableton Operator, sine wave, just as pure and as clean and as low as possible." And I did that, and it was just like, yes, of course. So yeah, the Ableton Operator is what I use now.
Awesome. And tell us about Machine Drum. You guys have collaborated. You've made tracks together. He's remixed you.
He's a hero of mine, and I'm honored to call him a buddy now after this tour we did.
You toured together as well.
Yeah, like a month, 5 weeks on the road last year, and so getting to like see his process and just his headspace about stuff. He's on it, and he is so prolific, and I feel like everything he puts out, just like the low end is so clear and full, and his chord everything, like I'm obsessed with his stuff. So we started a few tracks together on the road that we haven't finished yet, but I hope to. And yeah, he's done packs. He's done packs with his label as well, Ultra Magic, right?
Yes.
Jimmy
yes, yes.
Edgar. Yeah, he's such an inspiration, for sure.
Awesome. We've got a couple of minutes before we can take questions. I mean, we maybe just roll into questions now. I'm sure there's plenty of people out here that would want to ask you things which I've merely skimmed over. Questions, go for it.
Yes.
So with your hardware rig as it is, with your hardware rig as it is, it's a workflow question. Like, what's step one and then step two? Like, do you have kind of a model of or habit pattern of which components or which instruments you go to first?
Yeah. I have a lot of trouble sitting down and just thinking like I'm gonna start a track. I think that always ends up with bad results, and what ends up working out the best is when I just am like fucking around and hit record and just want to experiment with something. So like, for example, one track that was on my full-length album, it started because I thought, cool, what if I just do a bunch of different patterns with probably my favorite sound, which is a percussive sine tone and white noise. It's just like, I think because of the juxtaposition of the purest, clearest thing and the like all frequencies happening at once. So I think that's my favorite sound. I want to make just some interlocking 16th note patterns with that. And so I hit record and I just did a bunch of like do-ka-boo, 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 and just just different stupid things. Recorded that into Ableton. And then got it into a groove where I was able to start feeling it. And then from there, I think that informs going to something like the Juno and putting down a chord progression as soon as I'm feeling it. So yeah, I think the first step is thinking before I sit down and play something. So I'm not just like, cool, let's do a verse, C, G, just doesn't work. I need to think what's going to be fun, what's fresh, what haven't I tried, and then that can even turn into something where like I it's a jumping off point, and then I end up taking it out of the track as well, because it is just about feeling inspired. So sitting down, looking at what's around you, thinking about something you heard, something you saw, something that inspired you, and turning that into something you can have fun with, and hitting record. Also, something I've been learning more and more, hitting record all the time. That's big. I'll be like, cool, this guy was using the noise to modulate the pitch on his Model D on this video I saw on this Mini Moog. I always use the third oscillator as an LFO, but let me switch to the noise. And I'll mess around with something and be like, cool, and then completely miss recording it and not be able to recreate that magic of discovering something for the first time. So always having the red light going and putting something down, because you're probably going to want to sample that and mess around with that for sure. Did that answer the question? Cool.
Anybody else? We'll get you a mic.
Earlier you spoke about Ableton and how it was like you couldn't do your live setup without it, but the studio you could. I was just wondering if you could elaborate a little bit more on why Ableton isn't as, I mean, I understand it's the live aspects are insane, but I'm curious as to more like your studio workflow. Because I feel like for me, when I'm in the studio, the stuff that Ableton offers is like what I'm mostly using, but I'm curious to hear that you're not as interested in that.
Yeah, I think it's because in the studio I'm not really using the clip view, which is what makes one of the many things that I think makes Ableton so special and so different. I'm using the regular session view. I'm not using a lot of the built-in plugins. I really feel like I might as well be using any other DAW because I'm not using any of the things that really make Ableton special, which are to me, the things that you can do within that clip view and follow actions and dummy MIDI clips and the automation and the MIDI capability and the routing and things like that. Which, yeah, for me, I'm using a lot of the UAD plugins. I'm trying to get as much of the sound outside of the box as possible before I go in. So I feel like, yeah, in the studio, I'm not using anything that sets it apart from any other DAW, but live I am. Yeah. Cool.
Thank you.
What's up over there?
At what point during the creation of a track do you know that you've moved into like this is a song territory beyond? So like just what do you add that makes it a song as opposed to just like a sketch or a beat or whatever?
Hell if I know. I like... That's a good question. I think, a lot of releases I like are beat tapes, and there will be, minute-and-a-half long ideas that are kind of a loop, and that's great. I think it's the overarching form, probably, I'd say. So, you've got your idea for a song, and I'm taking this as like a sketch, as in like it's like a loop or something like that. So yeah, I think creating an overarching progression to it. So it starts somewhere, it goes somewhere, and it ends somewhere, and there's a journey. I think that's it. Yeah, I think, the variable of overarching time beyond the 4-bar, 8-bar, 2-bar, or whatever you have going on in your beat idea, and if it has different chord progressions, different sections, that helps to inform it as well for me. Like a lot of the sketches I have will be like a A and a B section, or just an A section, but adding like a C, adding something like a bridge or like a post-chorus kind of idea. That I think is what informs it becoming a song over a beat idea, I think. Cool.
Okay, I think with that we've got eager room full of people that would probably want to get off for lunch now. Thank you so much. It was incredibly interesting to listen. You're going to stick around and hopefully have some one-to-ones with some of the people in this room. Thank you. That was incredible.
My
That was
pleasure.
really inspiring.
Thanks for having me.